Hello, I'm Hubert for Clubit TV, and today we are going to look at this game here, Quartermaster: The Cold War, the latest installment in this series of games by Ian Brody and published by the Plastic Soldier Company. It is a 3 to 6 player game and takes between 90 to 120 minutes to play. So join me at the table and I'll show you how to play this game, and later I will tell you what I think of it. In this tutorial, for simplicity, we will cover a 3-player game. Give each player their corresponding decks and shuffle the cards together. Set up the board as described on page 7 of the rulebook. Each player draws 12 cards face down on the table in front of them. 3 cards are then selected and placed at the bottom of the draw pile. The Soviet player goes first, followed by the Western Bloc and then the Non-Aligned. During their turn, they can take actions or play cards from their hands in this order. Step 1. Begin turn step. During this turn, players may relocate resources. This means discard 3 cards and go through the deck and put 1 card of the player's choice into their hand. The deck is then shuffled. A player can also use any prepared cards that specify they may be used at this point. Step 2. Air step. The player's block can play 1 air power or discard a card to relocate an air force. Step 3. The action step. The player's block may play or prepare 1 card from their hand with the exception of Espionage or air power cards. Step 4. Supply step. A player must remove any units that are not in supply from the board. This will be explained in a bit. Step 5. The discard step. This is only applicable in a team game. Step 6. Espionage step. A player may play, that is prepare, an espionage card face down on the table and discard a card from their hand. Step 7. Draw step. A player may draw back up to 7 cards or until their deck runs out. If they have more than 7, they will not need to discard down. Some cards enable a player to place additional military units on the board. Under most circumstances, they need to be placed in an adjacent region. This often means that the unit is in supply. A line of uncontested regions can be traced to a supply symbol on the board. If an enemy unit moves into a region so it interrupts this line, any units will be considered as no longer in supply, and they are removed during the appropriate phase. A player can discard 1 card to keep a unit in supply for this turn. There are a number of types of card in the deck. WMD, Weapons of Mass Destruction, Event, Espionage, Status, Build Army / Navy cards, Land and Sea Battle cards. There is also an air power card that can be used to create an air force or allow an existing one to attack and destroy an enemy unit in a neighbouring region. Weapons of Mass Destruction cards are a little more complex and will not be covered in the scope of this video. Scoring takes place every 2 rounds. Each block counts up the number of armies they have for a point, plus 1 if they are located on a supply symbol. Some of the cards will also generate victory points. The victor is the block with the most points at the end of 19 turns, or is 20 or more points ahead of the one in last place. So the gameplay of Quartermaster is really aimed at war gamers, and I'm not a war gamer. It's not a particular genre that I would go looking for. I have played war games like Command and Colours, and I did enjoy the experience. 2 of the guys in my board gaming group are war gamers, and that's how they got into board gaming, and they were both familiar with the Quartermaster series, so I had them teach me, read the rulebook, teach me the game, and then we played it. I would say on the positive side that it flows really well. The turns are pretty quick, and you just kind of play a few cards, boom boom boom, and that's it, and then it's the next person's go. And then every other round you score. So the mechanisms are simple, they're not difficult to understand. You have to make sure that your pieces, your armies are always in supply. and that's fine. The game works well, but the problem is that it works well to a point. We found that there was a runaway leader problem, and it's so hard once one of the players gets a bit of traction and puts a few armies on and starts scoring a lot of points every other round. It is very, very difficult to stop them. It's not like you can just go and attack them and just wipe out their armies or try to cut their supply chain. It is extremely difficult because you need the certain cards to come up. And okay, there is a mechanism where you can go through your deck and find that card, but you're discarding 2 cards. And sometimes you'll discard a card only to realize that you shouldn't have and you needed it later. So some bits of it work and some bits of it don't. For me, it's not really my cup of tea, but I know there are a lot of people on Board Game Geek who love this game, and however much it's not a game for me, I know there are people out there who do like it. So if you've played the Quartermaster series and you're familiar with the mechanisms, there are a few changes, I've been told, but generally I think you will probably enjoy it. But before you do, this is check it out, perhaps find somebody else who's got one, play the game, see if it's for you, and if you like it, buy it. But as I said earlier, this game is not for me, but then again, I'm not really into war games. I would say that one of the things that I did like about this game was the theme. Because I was born during the Cold War, and a lot of things happened. When you go through the cards, you just get these historical event after historical event, and as I was reading it, part of me wanted, reading the cards, part of me wanted to go home afterwards and look up these events and find out exactly what happened during those things, but like the Bay of Pigs and the Indian invasion of Pakistan and all this kind of stuff, the whole Kashmir thing. It's all in the game. So it's highly thematic and historical in that respect. But also, one of the things that I don't remember during the Cold War were direct confrontations between the East and the West. And you get this in this game. We had a massive punch-up over Germany. I'd put an army in there as the Soviet bloc, and then the Western bloc would then destroy my army and put theirs in, and the next round I'd do it again. Now, if that had happened in real life, there would have been all-out war between the 2 powers. But all that happens in the game is that the tension level is raised a bit, and not a great deal. So I found that was a little bit wonky, but overall, it's a solid game. It's just not for me. Okay, well, that's Hubert. I'm Hubert for Clubit TV. I hope you enjoyed this review.